The collapse of the U.S. home sales is here, and this is a very difficult time for real estate agents and homeowners that are trying to sell their houses, their homes, as I've documented below, and Michael Snyder says, sales of previously owned homes in the United States just fell to the lowest level that we have been seeing during the month of March since 2009. Needless to say, in March 2009, we were in the middle of the Great Recession. Meanwhile, the number of unsold homes that are currently on the market just continues to pile up. This is likely to put an enormous amount of downward pressure on home prices in the months ahead. Of course, the collapse of U.S. home sales that we are now witnessing did not actually begin during the Trump administration. In 2024, while Joe Biden was still in the White House, sales of previously owned homes hit the lowest level in almost 3 decades. The final figures for home sales last year are in, and the story is quite grim. The 2024 was the slowest year for existing home sales in nearly 3 decades. Existing home sales last year totaled 4.06 million, the lowest on the annual basis since 1995, according to the National Association of Realtors on Friday. A big factor behind the slowdown was elevated mortgage rates, which spent most of the year above 6.5%. In 1995, 266 million people were living in the United States. Today, there are 340 million people living in the United States. So on a per capita basis, things were even worse last year than they were in 1995. And now it appears that our problems are accelerating. The number of previously owned homes sold in March 2025 was even lower than it was in March 2024. In fact, we have not seen a March this bad since 2009. Higher mortgage rates and concern over the broader economy are making for a weak start to an all-important spring housing market. Sales of previously owned homes in March fell 5.9% from February to 4.02 million units on a seasonally adjusted annualized basis, according to the National Association of Realtors. That's the slowest March sales pace since 2009. The housing market is in a depressed state, and nobody can deny that. Sales are falling even though the number of homes being listed for sale has been rising at a very brisk rate. Sales fell despite a sharp increase in available listings. At the end of March, there were 1.33 million units for sale, an increase of nearly 20% from March 2024. In Florida, the number of homes listed for sale has actually risen to the highest level ever recorded. The number of homes in the market in the Sunshine State rose 23% year over year to a record high in January amid a decrease in home buying, an influx of newly built homes for sale, intensifying natural disasters, and surging insurance costs and HOA fees. Florida ended January with 172,209 homes for sale, the highest inventory of any month on record dating back to 2012. That's up 22.7% from a year earlier. When supply is very high but demand is low, that is inevitably going to force prices down. And we're already starting to see condo prices declining precipitously in some areas of the country. Condos are often the first and biggest movers in local housing markets. Prices exploded in many of them over the 3 years between mid-2019 and the peak in mid-2022 by 60%, such as in Austin, Texas, by 70%, such as in Tampa, Florida, and Chula Vista, San Diego County, California, or by 80%, such as in Mesa, Arizona, and Lakeland, Florida. But this absurdity is now coming to conclude. The prices have begun spiraling down. In Austin, which is on the forefront of this movement, prices have already given up nearly 2/3 of the 60% 3-year gain. People who bought at the top in mid-2022 are 22% underwater. People who bought in mid-2019 are still sitting on a 20% gain that is shrinking. Unless the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates, it's likely that home prices will decline significantly. But of course, the truth is that the Federal Reserve may soon be forced to start cutting rates because economic conditions are really starting to deteriorate. And once rates go down, home prices could start rising again. In this economic environment, there is just so much uncertainty. But what we do know is that much of the population is really struggling right now. In fact, a brand new survey that was just released found that approximately 2/5 of all U.S. adults under the age of 30 are barely getting by financially. Young Americans are sounding the alarm about their finances, with roughly 2 in 5 people under 30 saying they're either struggling to make ends meet or getting by with limited security. And that's according to a survey of 2,096 adults aged 18 to 29, conducted by Harvard's Institute of Politics between March 14 and 25, 2025. The survey found that among that age group, financial insecurity most affected women, Hispanics, and those without college degrees. Times are tough. 4 years of Bidenomics did an incredible amount of damage to our economy, and now consumers have far less discretionary income than they once did. This is one of the reasons why so many restaurant chains are now in deep financial trouble. This week we learned that Jack in the Box will be closing between 150 and 200 underperforming restaurants. Jack in the Box said Wednesday it's planning to close between 150 to 200 underperforming restaurants and could sell the Del Taco brand it acquired 3 years ago. The San Diego-based chain, which currently operates and franchises 2,200 restaurants across 22 states, primarily on the West Coast and Midwest, said it plans to close 80 to 120 locations by the end of 2025, with the remaining underperforming restaurants closing therefore based on respective franchise agreements termination dates. I wish that had better news for you, I really do, but what we're facing is undeniable. When the Federal Reserve started to raise interest rates, I warned that it would be absolutely devastating for the housing market, and that's exactly what has transpired. March 2025 is the worst March for home sales since the Great Recession. Hopefully the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates. If they choose to do so, I will cheer, but for now we have got a real mess on our hands. The collapse of U.S. home sales is here, and so far the Federal Reserve is choosing to sit on the sidelines and watch this happen. This is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. About the author, Michael Snyder's new book, a blockbuster entitled Why, is available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He also has written 8 other books available on Amazon, including Chaos, End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of Future of America, The Beginning of the End, Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and he always freely and happily allows others to publish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.